Let's count down the 3 biggest developments in space since this last week. The Washington-based startup Stoke is working to become the first group to develop a fully reusable rocket. This is big news because historically every mission in space sacrifices a rocket stage. Stoke is designing their 2 rocket stages to be fully refurbishable within 24 hours. On September 17th, they hit a major milestone with the first test flight of their upper stage. NASA's Curiosity rover has been on Mars since 2012 and tried 3 times unsuccessfully to reach something called the Gediz-Vallis Ridge. On September 18th, NASA announced that Curiosity had finally made it to the ridge, and the photos that it took may reshape our understanding of the planet's history. In 2016, NASA launched the OSIRIS-REx mission to retrieve samples from a 4.5 billion-year-old asteroid named Bennu. On September 24th, OSIRIS-REx sent a sample from Bennu that landed in the Utah desert. The asteroid sample may serve as a time capsule from the earliest days of our solar system. For more stories like this, follow the T-Minus newsletter from Freethink.
Have you heard of Albert Einstein?
Yes.
What do you know about him?
He has crazy hair.
He does have crazy hair, and I think I may be heading in that direction, actually. He showed us an approach to travel to the future. You want me to tell you how you do it?
Okay.
You build a spaceship. You go out into space really quickly. You turn around and you come back to planet Earth. And he showed us that when you're on that ship, your clock will tick off time more slowly. You will age more slowly. So that journey may only take you, say, a year, 6 months out and 6 months back. But you know what? When you step out of the ship, it'll be 100 years into the future, or 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years into the future. Would you do that if you could?
I would probably be dead by then.
No, you'd be alive. That's the amazing thing. I'd be dead. Everybody else would be dead who stayed on Earth. But your body would only age 1 year. And yet it would be 1,000 years into the future. The question, though, is could you get back? And I don't know the answer to that. Nobody does. We don't know if you can travel back, but we certainly know that you can travel forward.
So how do you make a good-looking desk setup that you're excited to use? The answer comes down to one word: theme. You see, a theme gives you a starting point and tells you everything you need. Take this one for example. Cabin. Rustic wood, wood shelf, wood accessories, a lantern, retro-inspired keyboard. I even told AI to create a dual-monitor cabin-inspired desk setup. I wasn't far off. Start with a theme and build onto it over time. Now go build the setup of your dreams.
You know, everyone says that 9 out of every 10 companies fail. My mind translated that as I just have to start 10 companies. So I grew up in Southeast Iowa, and when I left the family farm, I wanted to be a full-time poker player. I very much from day one treated poker like a business. Instead of playing by gut feelings, I decided to play by mathematical odds. I would play up to 40 tables at once. Each table had 80 hands an hour, so over 3,000 hands an hour, a few million hands of poker a year. It helped prepare me for startups by just remaining process-oriented and understanding you need a proper sample size of data.
Clayton is working on his second tech company, Nebulum.
Every decision we make needs to be data-driven. So in my mind, data is the words to the story. You know, am I making progress? Whether you like numbers or not, you have to know your numbers. So I think anyone starting a business today or anyone excited about starting a company or scaling a company should understand their numbers.
proponent of the multi-universes theory? Do you believe that there are many, many universes, and that even if this one fades out, that there's other ones that are starting fresh right now, and there's an infinite number of them, and they're just constantly in this never-ending cycle of birth and death?
I think most likely, this is just about probability, there are many, many simulations. These simulations are, we might as well call them reality, or you could call them multiverse.
These simulations, you believe, are created? Like someone has manufactured?
They're running on the substrate.
So...
that substrate is probably boring.
Boring?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
Well, when we create a simulation, like a game or a movie, it's the distillation of what's interesting about life. You know, like it could take a year to shoot an action movie, and then that's all distilled down into 2 or 3 hours. So, let me tell you, if you see an action movie being filmed, it's boring, super boring. There's like lots of takes. Everything's in a green screen. Looks pretty goofy. Doesn't look cool. But once you add the CGI and have great editing, it's amazing. So I think most likely, if we're a simulation, it's really boring outside the simulation. Because why would you make a simulation that's boring? You make a simulation way more interesting than base reality.
Can the ROG Ally replace your gaming PC or prevent you from buying one in the first place? Well, to answer that question, we're going to need to see how well this thing can play games, so let's check it out. So I started with some pretty light games like Stardew Valley and one of my favorites, Secret of Monkey Island. I was getting about 120 frames per second, which is to be expected. Then I moved on to something a little more hefty, which was Rocket League, and I was averaging about 70 to 100 frames per second on max settings. Halo Infinite is where things got tricky, and I was getting about 30 to 40 frames per second on max settings. And in Call of Duty Warzone, I was only able to get about 30 to 40 frames on medium settings, but packet burst was the biggest issue, causing most of the lag. Which was weird because I tested this right next to my router and had the same result. I was even able to get Star Citizen running on this thing, but let's be honest, the frames and the controls were not it. At the end though, I had 50% battery life left after 30 minutes of recording, which is not ideal. With that said, this is a portable gaming PC, and that is cool.
This doctor didn't shower for 5 years. Dr. James Hamblin, a physician, Yale Public Health lecturer, and author, stopped bathing while researching his latest book, Clean, The New Science of Skin. Here are 4 important lessons he learned during that time. Over-reliance on soap may be creating allergies and leaving us open to diseases. Our skin is the first line of defense against disease. The more we wash the natural bacteria and organisms away on our skin, the more susceptible we become to foreign invaders. There are mites on our skin and face which might sound bad, but they're doing important stuff. A 2014 study out of North Carolina revealed that these mites are natural exfoliants that help prevent breakouts and skin infections. The idea that we need this much soap every day is basically a marketing trick. Making soap is pretty cheap. What we're paying for is great marketing and a good smell. That's basically it. The skincare industry is totally unregulated. A lot of what we're using on our face goes unchecked by the FDA, and the last 2 lessons that Dr. Hamblin learned will probably surprise you. Go check out the full piece at freethink.com.
I'd say the biggest threat right now is population collapse, the super low birth rate.
Don't we have an overpopulation problem?
No, we have an underpopulation problem.
Really?
Yeah. This is the most commonly misunderstood situation.
Yeah.
This is a holdover from the 70s or something, you know? So there was a huge baby boom where people did have a ton of kids after World War II. But then the birth rate in the US has been below replacement rate since 71 or 72. China's got a huge population collapse problem. So part of it is just we're operating on things that were true in the past but are no longer true. So China did have a one-child policy, but about 10 years ago, they changed it to a two-child policy. And then a few years ago, they changed it to a three-child policy, and birth rate kept plummeting the whole time. China's birth rate right now is 40% below replacement. What we face is population collapse. Like, people have no idea how fast the population is going to collapse. I'm not like a doomsayer here. My view is that provided we are not complacent about a sustainable energy economy, I think things will be fine. If we are complacent about it, that's where problems arise. So, to be totally frank, I think we'll be fine. But as long as we don't behave as though we're going to be fine, we will be fine. If we don't take it for granted, if we're not complacent, I think we'll be fine.
We're here in Oslo exploring electric transportation.
This is the best-selling Norwegian vehicle of all time. The only electric vehicle currently manufactured in Norway. This is the Paxter.
We developed the Paxter together with Norwegian Post. So they needed a vehicle that was green, of course, ergonomic, efficient in their daily delivery.
The Paxter's battery lasts for an 8-hour shift before being fully charged in 6 to 8 hours overnight via existing charging infrastructure. Over 3,500 Paxters are in use across Europe.
Food delivery companies, bakeries, public sectors.
Maybe reducing emissions through electrification isn't just about remaking the buses, cars, trams, and ferries we already have. Maybe it also means we need to invent new, in-between options customized to different needs. And if they're fun to drive, that doesn't hurt either.